Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. And we have a Nayte update. Of course, we know Nayte and Michelle had a falling out. Didn't really share exactly what happened in their relationship. But in the last week, Nick Viall let it leak that he has seen the text messages that say, that maybe vindicate Nayte, and maybe he's not the F-boy. Again, this is just Nick having seen Nate's side. Nick hasn't seen Michelle's side. But Nayte today spills some tea. Is it about Michelle? Nayte says, when you ask her why she won't block the dudes who keep sliding in her DMs. I'll show you the TikTok, and then we'll kind of go through what's gone down in the last 6 months or so to lead us up to this point. Will there be a moment where somebody takes the gloves off and actually calls out the other for what actually went down? It seems like they both have a side of the story they're not sharing, and yet subtly are still digging and jockeying for position to see who got wronged the most. All right, don't wrong me. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals. Have a show in Pacific Beach tonight, a dating-themed stand-up show at, I believe, 8 p.m. Pacific Beach, San Diego. If you want to come to that, I'll be in rush hour all afternoon, but we're going there. Patreon.com/Dave Neal for behind-the-scenes bonus content, and also Bachelor Rush Hour. I already recorded today's podcast, and I included in today's podcast, hold on, I have to pull it up, a unique clip of my stand-up show that I had with Katie Thurston. I included the introduction and also a little jab at some of Katie's exes. So if you want to check that out, audio only, you can go to Bachelor Rush Hour, the podcast, and go listen to that. Link in the comment section. It is live right now. It's free. You can go check that out. All right, so let's get into it. Here's what Nayte said in his TikTok right here. Again, we already read it. Nothing fancy.
Because.
And then he says, when you ask her why she won't block the dudes who keep sliding into her DMs, and then the audio is because. So essentially what he's saying is, you have no excuse for it, whatever. But also he said, hashtag don't take my TikTok seriously. Whoops. Okay, sorry. We already made a video. We're here. Let's do it. But he said, but let us get in one argument and I'm banished from her socials. So interesting. Does that mean he had one argument with Michelle? Again, we're taking reaches here. We're taking liberties. We don't know. Let's give them both grace. But of course, Nayte was slammed for being this F-boy and this and that. And it's like, is he an F-boy because he's 6'6" or 6'7"? Is it because he's good looking, or is he an F-boy for his actions? So far, he hasn't really done much to show us that he is an F-boy. And if he is, let him be single, let him be an F-boy. You know what I mean? Whatever. But I always question this, and I'm not slamming Michelle whatsoever. No one has been no one's been more supportive of Michelle as far as like letting her do what she wants. Don't go back to teaching. Just work on your influencer game. Cash in, get that money. You served your time, whatever. But why, when we look at Michelle as a teacher and because she's quiet, why do we think she can't be the messy one? We assume she has her shit together because she's a teacher. We've all known teacher, I'm watching that new show Shrinking. Or it's called Shrinked or Shrinking. It's about when I went swimming in the cold ocean. No, it's about therapists. It's on Apple TV, and the therapist it's Jason Segel. Is that his name? Jason Segel and Harrison Ford. I was going to say Chris Harrison. Either way, I'm probably messing names up here. They are all the psychologists and therapists are really messy with their personal lives, and I'm sure teachers and nurses and everyone else is. We're all humans. We're all effing around and do whatever, right? So I don't think we need to treat Michelle like she's some, person who, again, she's just like the rest of us. She went on the dating show. She's no better or worse, and we like her for that. I'm giving her the credit by normalizing Michelle. Be a little sloppy. And if she wants to, share her side. You know what I mean? So anyway, Nayte posts that. And we have this initial, what I'm going to do here is play several clips. I'm going to play what Nayte initially said on Nick's podcast months ago, and then I'm going to share the update from this week. So this was 5 months ago, okay? We're going to share what he said, plus the updates from this week, and kind of like how I think we're going to maybe get ourselves out of this mess. But let's see, after seeing what he said on the TikTok and what we have here, if you guys have any connective tissue, was he talking about her?
I started questioning things because it was just like a confusing moment, and that kind of just led to some trust issues on my part too.
Follow up, Nick.
So yeah, I think trust definitely kind of played like a.
Well, I mean, are you able to share what that moment was?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're laying in bed one day, and she's right next to me. We're in Austin. She's right next to me, and she's on Instagram, and I see. I glance at her phone and I see that there's a text or a DM thread with like a very, very
Now, hold on. I'm going to take Michelle's side in a second, so hold on. Don't think I'm bashing her. I'm about to take her aside. I'll tell you what's problematic about Nayte here.
famous country music singer. And I was like, hey, Michelle's a celebrity. Like that's something I got to get used to too. You know, it's like, hey, that's normal. Like celebrities talk to celebrities. So I didn't think much of it. It was whatever. And then like 20 seconds later, I glanced at her phone again and the entire thread is gone. So obviously alarms are going off in my head. And I'm like, hey, I glance at your phone.
And now Nayte glances at her phone, then she deletes the messages. So now Nayte thinks that she's done something wrong.
This country music singer, and now the entire thread is gone. Like, I have to ask, what was that about? Right? The story that she told me just made no sense. You know, like it was just such an odd story. It started with like, oh, like I deleted it because what he said made me feel uncomfortable. And I was like, oh, like what did he say? And she was like, oh, he wanted to go get drinks with me. And I was like, okay, like what led to that? Because this singer had invited her because he was on tour or something in Minnesota. So like,
all right, so we have a celebrity country musician who was on tour in Minnesota. All right, so of course the internet went wild to find out who it was. Zachary Reality made a video. And then we looked into who it was. Everyone thought it was actually Michelle was DMing Victoria Fuller's ex, Chase Rice, but it turns out it was somebody else. When we go to this video right here, the 423 mark. Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up. If we go to 423, we'll see that Zachary gives his update here. And then we'll get into what Nick said this week regarding this story.
So here's the truth about everything that happened with Nayte, Michelle, and the country singer saga. So it all started when Nayte went on Nick Viall's podcast and shared that Michelle was DMing a country singer.
Got it.
I don't know why he felt the need to throw Michelle under the bus, but I guess...
Well, I agree. I mean, this is the type of information people will speculate on. There's no problem with Michelle being in a conversation with a famous country singer. If they did go get drinks by themselves, I mean that's a different argument.
Talking about. So I got a message saying that it could be Kane Brown since Michelle went to one of his concerts over the summer. But Kane Brown is a family man, he has a wife, he has kids, and he also has a new album which just came out today. So I never said it was Kane Brown. I was just trying to gather all of the country concerts that Michelle has went to over the summer to try and figure this out. By the end of the day, multiple reliable sources reported...
And I want to confirm, by the way, so... Confirm that these by Reality Steve and Victoria Fuller, very credible, say that the person in question was one Chase Rice. We'll get more into that in a second.
To me that it was actually Chase Rice who Michelle was DMing. And I guess here's a picture to prove it that Michelle and Chase were at a concert.
There it is. Whoa, 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 whoa. So look, we don't know exactly what happened. Zachary Reality, when he had hypothesized that Kane Brown was the one DMing, all like the record labels, the execs like rained down on Zach Reality to be like, who the hell are you? Like they nipped that in the bud. It's almost like the country music scene, like their country music mafia were literally like, let's not. You know, it's actually a very interesting story. So I'm glad we're kind of catching up on all of it today. So either way, who the person was, we never know for sure. It's all just like, well, so-and-so was here. She went to this concert. Who could it have been? We don't know. But either way, two more clips to play for you guys. So Nick, this is just 3 days ago. Nick goes and lets it be known that he has seen the receipts. Okay. So at this point, Nick has seen the receipts.
Relationship ending. She said it was my dream ring. Apparently that was her dream ring.
Wow.
She loved the like pear shape, and she was saying for future engagements she's gonna have to figure out a new ring because she's not gonna be doing a repeat.
She can't get a dream ring again?
Ring.
Would you want one that looked exactly the same?
I'm just surprised it was
that she got her dream ring through Neal Lane.
I mean,
and they
Neal's
ripped
wonderful.
it back out of her hands.
Yeah.
Neal Lane ripped it back out.
What else?
How much control do you have over the rings?
Not much. Yeah.
Oh, okay. She said, I wanted the relationship to work. I was willing to put in the work for the relationship, and I had the person take off.
Ooh.
That's not something that I bluntly said before because Instagram and there's all these other things, but I know what it looks like to work through a relationship, and I know how hard relationships can get, but both people have to be capable of doing that.
Oh.
So Michelle thinks, and I need to get my ref hat over here. Michelle thinks Nayte took off after one argument. Meanwhile, Nayte has said in the past that Michelle blocked him. And he says here, but let us get in one argument and I'm banished from her socials. Again, we don't know if this is his current girl or Michelle, but when he says when you ask her why she won't block the dudes who keep sliding in her DMs, this is where I actually side with Michelle, assuming this is what the fight was about, in that you can't ask your significant other to do those things. You can expect it, but when you start saying, hey, when you start getting jealous, even if someone is sliding into their DMs, the act of calling it out is troublesome. And I know people might say, you might disagree with me on this one. I just think you have to keep that trust, even in this situation that we had here, where Nayte calls her out, something gets deleted, and then Nayte says, call your friend, and then Nayte tries to get the friend on the same page and see if he can catch someone in a lie. At that point, relationship's over. You have to trust. If you go to that point, it's over. And then maybe he got to that point and he said, look, if I can't trust you right now, we're done. Now, I don't think he should have pried for that information in the first place. I think she said yes to his engagement. He should have more trust in the relationship because jealousy will lead to those types of cracks. You will start seeing ghosts where there are none. All right. So anyway.
Those are harsh words.
Those are harsh words. But also what everyone was screaming and telling her entire season with Nayte. Mm-hmm. That he wasn't emotionally mature. He had never been in a relationship before. He didn't know what it meant to be in a difficult place.
Yeah, I don't know, but
So now we're going to hear from Nick. Did he take off?
We had the pleasure of talking with Nayte. I also had the pleasure of talking with Nayte
solo, yeah.
And on the show. And Nayte was very generous with his truth.
Right. I remember the headlines coming from that.
Yeah.
With his truth.
I mean, like everyone has their... and they didn't work out, so clearly they weren't on the same page. I think... I know Nayte felt like he survived that relationship.
Wow.
And I don't think
It wasn't 9/11, Nayte. Wow.
Oh, I'm not overselling that. I'm underselling
right.
it. Yeah.
Jeez. But does he have anything to compare that to? He was never in a relationship before.
I don't think you need to compare it to
feel like you survived something.
Knowing what happened.
Wow.
Whoa. So Nick says, knowing what happened, Nick agrees that Nayte survived the relationship. And again, we don't know. We don't know anything else, but now we have Nayte sharing a TikTok. Makes you wonder. And again, I think as far as Bachelor is concerned, normalizing... Now look, we wanted Michelle and Nayte to be this happy couple that, sailed in the sunset. But the best compliment we can give them as individuals is to continue to discuss this. Oh, why, Dave? What are you talking about? Well, we do that with everyone else who's been on the show. So I'm not saying DM them or search for information or dig through their garbage, but I'm saying if they keep sharing TikToks like that, and if they keep going on his podcast, then we are going to keep talking about it. Now, it seems like Michelle may want to move on, but you'd think that if she was the damsel in distress, if she was the victim of Nayte's overbearing jealousy or whatever, that we'd hear more from her side. And I'm not saying that she's not. We don't know. Give her the grace. But let's also give him the grace. Let me know what you guys think. Fascinating story. I think it's not over. I think we're going to get some more info. Also, don't forget, check out the podcast. Fresh content, never before seen or heard. It's all right there. I'm going to have some great interviews coming next week. I'm interviewing a former lead, a lead that was the lead in the last 4 seasons. I'll be interviewing them and airing it later this week, so you're going to want to get that information exclusively at Bachelor Rush Hour, the podcast. We'll see you after this. Bye, everyone.